The Great War was over. The world had never seen destruction on such a scale. Millions dead, empires collapsed, a continent in ruins. And now, the victors gathered in France to ensure that such a catastrophe would never happen again. But their solution, the Treaty of Versailles, would not bring lasting peace. Instead, it would create the perfect conditions for an even deadlier conflict. This is the story of how a treaty meant to end all wars, led to the most devastating war in human history. June 28, 1919, the Treaty of Versailles is signed, but at what cost? According to historian Margaret MacMillan in her book Paris 1919, 6 months that changed the world, this treaty was as much about punishing Germany as it was about securing peace. The Allies had won. The Central Powers lay in defeat. But victory came at an unimaginable cost. France and Belgium were in ruins. Britain was drowning in debt. And Germany was on the brink of collapse. Germany expected peace. Instead, they got humiliation. At Versailles, the so-called Big Four dictated terms. Woodrow Wilson of the United States, David Lloyd George of Britain, Georges Clemenceau of France, and Vittorio Orlando of Italy. But this wasn't diplomacy. It was vengeance. As John Maynard Keynes wrote in The Economic Consequences of the Peace, the treaty was so harsh that it would lead to economic disaster for Germany, with long-term consequences for Europe. Article 231, the War Guilt Clause. It placed sole responsibility for the war on Germany's shoulders. And with guilt came punishment. Germany was ordered to pay 132 billion gold marks in reparations, an impossible sum that crippled its economy. According to the Treaty of Versailles, 1919, Articles 231 to 248, this clause justified severe financial penalties, territorial losses, and military restrictions on Germany. Territories were taken. Alsace-Lorraine went to France. The Saar Basin was occupied. Poland was given a corridor to the sea, splitting Germany in two. The Rhineland was demilitarized, and Germany's army was reduced to a mere 100,000 men, barely enough to defend itself. The impact was immediate. The German economy collapsed. Hyperinflation turned life savings into worthless paper. The people suffered, and resentment grew. Among those angered was a former soldier, an Austrian-born corporal who had fought in the trenches of World War I, Adolf Hitler. As William L. Shire details in The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, Hitler and many Germans viewed Versailles not as a peace settlement, but as a national humiliation that needed to be avenged. This treaty did not bring peace. It created anger, it created division, and it created the perfect conditions for a dangerous ideology to rise. The world had hoped to prevent another war with the League of Nations, but without the United States fully backing it, the League was weak, powerless to stop the brewing storm. As historian Richard Overy explains in The Origins of the Second World War, the League's failure to act against early German aggression only emboldened Hitler. Germany began rearming in defiance of the treaty. The world watched, but no one acted. Britain and France, desperate to avoid another war, chose a policy of appeasement. One by one, Hitler broke every restriction imposed by Versailles, and each time, the world did nothing. Until, finally, on September 1st, 1939, German tanks rolled into Poland. The Second World War had begun. The Treaty of Versailles was meant to secure peace. Instead, it planted the seeds of an even greater catastrophe. Harsh punishment, economic devastation, and national humiliation. These were not ingredients for peace, but for revenge. As history has shown, punishing a defeated enemy too harshly only fuels future conflict. Today, history reminds us that true peace is built on reconciliation, not retribution. Versailles was a warning, a lesson in what happens when a peace treaty becomes a blueprint for war. What do you think? Could World War II have been prevented with a fairer peace? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories of history.